Very well said. And that Irungu Nyakera that you've talked about is actually our next guest. And he's here in the studio. This is a man who, you guy. You know, you talk about, first of all, education, Ivy Leagues. He's like Fagia, the Ivy Leagues. He's still in one of them. He's in Oxford. He's currently a student at Oxford.
I feel like Oxford is Ivy League Pro Max.
Like,
Ivy League alafu Ivy League Pro Max.
It's another level.
Yeah, he served as a PS in the former administration of Uhuru Kenyatta. He's a party leader, but I don't know whether he's still a party leader because he's now patron for the Democratic... What's it called?
Democracy for Citizens Party.
That one.
Yes.
The DCP.
DCP.
The party of masculine.
Listening.
For Nairobi. Irungu karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Thank you very much for joining us.
And thank you very much for having me here today. Yes.
Just before Jano gives you that quote, and we get to hear, so Oxford now. Before Oxford was?
Stanford.
Stanford.
Yeah.
Before Stanford.
It was called Deerfield. Then Starehe.
Una collect degrees, come on. Infinity Stones.
The Thanos of degree.
Yeah, I love it.
Just goes.
Right?
Okay. Jano, what's today's quote?
That's really good. Today's quote is from a renowned saxophonist, composer, musician. He was from South Africa, renowned for his jazz music and his political activism as well, which made him go into exile during apartheid South Africa. That's Hugh Masekela. And he once said, when somebody goes around thinking they're great, they're actually beginning their end. What do you make of that?
Essentially is I remember one statement that Steve Jobs gave us when he came for the commencement speech at Stanford, and he said you have to it was more around you have to keep learning. You have to keep listening. Yeah. And when you stop listening and learning, you fall. Yeah. So in the same way, as long as once you believe that you're the best and you're the biggest, you're the brightest, then you fall.
Yeah. You're no longer teachable.
Yes.
I agree with you. I always believe that you have to remain teachable in life. Sometimes you reach certain milestones, like saying when Steve Jobs came to talk to us, that's a flex, first of all, at Stanford.
Yeah.
Then once you get to that milestone, you feel like I don't have anything else to learn. Yeah. And that limits your ability to grow and evolve. Yeah.
Actually, he said, remain stupid, remain foolish.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Remain
foolish.
Stupid,
remain
foolish.
Yeah.
Is that part of what informs how you evolve? Because just before you came on set, we were talking about, so you were the Farmers' Party, and now you've evolved, your career politically has kind of continues to evolve.
Yeah.
Maybe start with what informs that. How do you know when it's time to shift, when it feels right, when it's the right time to do it?
Actually, you don't, because it's you're always supposed to be as flexible. This is like water. And it's more around the people around you, the situations around you, because the situations alter cases. So I can say that tomorrow I want to be in this party, but if that's not where people are, then there's no point of being there. I remember because the last election I ran under Farmers' Party, and I ran under Farmers' Party because I had a farmers' agenda. I was a chairman. I had been made the chairman of the National Task Force on tea reforms. I was on the coffee sector reforms, and so the issues that we were speaking on were issues of the farmers. So when I was being told to move to UDA at that time, I said that, but people will still elect me because I stand for what? For farmers. I remember by the time we went to elections, the tea farmers that I fought for, their bonus was about 60 shillings from 28 shillings. So they were being paid more than double what they had been paid the previous year. And they still voted for the wave. They still voted for the candidate that came with UDA party. And that told me that on one end, people will want the change, but on the other, they won't vote for the change.
Because it was right, it was literally right there.
Yes.
There was your appointment to the chairperson for the KICC.
Yes.
That was revoked. Did you have academic commitments at school at Oxford?
Yeah.
That was the reason you could not attend?
Yeah. Yes, actually, at that time I was at Oxford. And that's one of the reasons why I said that I won't make it. And I won't be there.
Won't make it where?
For the president's tour of Mount Kenya. And on the other end as well, I didn't feel there was need for me to be there. Because even if I was there, I would only either participate in the lies that will be told to the people, or actually lie myself. Yeah, because the issue, and I said even there, that let's talk development, let's not talk politics. If it was because it was a development tour, what was supposed to be discussed is development, but actually it was a political tour. Yeah, because I was on the same tour in 2022. When we went around Mount Kenya, different counties, in particular my county, Murang'a, and we made a lot of promises to the people. Promises that were not political, promises that were about development. We held town halls, economic town halls, and where we actually spoke about each of the wards coming up with what do they want to be delivered in the next administration, which is now the current administration, and what are the priorities for each constituency. And I can tell you that to date, there is absolutely nothing that has been done on those development proposals that were shared. So I felt, even if I was there, what exactly am I going to say? And people who see me there, what will they think of me being there? A puppet?
But Irungu, they didn't need to see you on the ground. They just needed to look at government appointments and see that you are serving in the same administration.
Yeah.
So you, up until the moment your appointment was revoked, you were part and parcel of the administration. Your party, the Farmers' Party, was still, in cooperation, was a member of the Kenya Kwanza.
Maybe I can remind you how I got into government.
Yes.
When after the election, as Kenya Kwanza, we used to be called to Karen every time the president wants to make a statement. For us to, he was the deputy president then, for us to go and back him up and also speak. We always got the opportunity to speak, especially addressing the press. After he won, we never once got a call. Actually, to date, they do not have a Kenya Kwanza office. Yeah, so it's really just a UDA office. After that, the next meeting we had was where we were called to discuss about dissolving our parties. Yeah, and for me, I was very categorical. There's absolutely no way we're going to dissolve Farmers' Party. And I was told that there's a big appointment for me once we dissolve our parties. And I remember asking them, what parties did the people who've been given CSs and PSs dissolve? Which parties did they dissolve? If I have to dissolve mine to be appointed. After that, when the government decided and came up with a very weird plan of going to plant maize in Zambia, when we have a whole Galanakulalu, millions of acres, water, and all the Sagana, all this, we have a lot of arable land in Kenya. And they decided that they want to go farm in Zambia. I went to court, Farmers' Party went to court, and we got an injunction stopping the government from going to Zambia. The next week is when the president called me to appoint me to KEMSA as a chairperson. And I was told by some people close to him, umetusumbua sana.
Unyamaze kidogo.
Unyamaze kidogo. Yeah, just so I was
appointment gani?
To be chairperson of KEMSA. Yeah, KEMSA.
KEMSA, sorry.
KEMSA, yeah. So the appointment, I got in there not because I was a principal in Kenya Kwanza. There are very many of the 8 of us who are principals who are still out there. Mwandawiro with his communism party. We have Wambora still out there, never gotten any opportunity. Even Kabogo just got the other day. We were with him from the beginning. Yeah, so it was not based on that. So even then, that's why even when I was at KICC and even at KEMSA, I still spoke, even on my handles, on issues that actually affected Kenyans, even when I was in government. I spoke about the issues of debt and how accumulating more debt will actually lead us to a crisis as a country. I talked about issues of pending bills, which we still keep talking about, because pending bills is actually what is killing the business people who are working with government. I spoke on the health care, the SHA, and how it's not working. They are now saying it's working. I'm yet to understand, but so those are things that we spoke about when we were there and when we are out here.
You accepted the role though, right? When you were given the KEMSA, okay.
Yes.
But you were still a critic of the government.
Where necessary.
Where necessary. How did you straddle those two? Some might say you were given the role, you were quiet because you were comfortable and you no longer felt the need to push back.
Ukakubali nyama.
Yes, nilinyamaza kidogo, lakini sikunyamaza kabisa. Yeah, and especially on issues of health, I was in the Ministry of Health. So I was not, if there are any issues around health, I was talking to my minister, the PS and the systems around us. So I could easily talk. I was not going to criticize openly issues of health because I was there and I had other channels to speak to. But on issues that are not, then we spoke out.
Did the other leaders of the other political parties that form the Kenya Kwanza ever demand a summit of Kenya Kwanza leadership? Because you're saying, since after this government was formed, the leaders of Kenya Kwanza have never really met. The principals of Kenya Kwanza parties have never really met to discuss the promises that you made and the realization of those promises. It's like you all swallowed up, silently into UDA. Right. Did you ever demand?
We did. Actually, even that meeting that we held, we are the ones who had demanded for it. But they came with the agenda to dissolve us when we met for asking, okay, this is Kenya Kwanza, we have a Kenya Kwanza manifesto. Are we part of it or are we not part of it? Yeah.
But in truth, you small parties are just inconsequential, politically speaking. And I'm here to throw it out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
How many members do you have? So it shows your popularity on the ground. The strength of a political party is on how many members you have and how many of your members are elected into positions of government. How many members did the Farmers Party have? How many members did what's the one for Tujibebe of Kabogo?
Yeah.
How many members did the one for Moses Kuria have? How many? So you're small parties. You're individuals, you're not parties.
That's for a post-election coalition. We have two kinds of coalitions. We have a pre-election coalition and a post-election coalition.
Yeah.
A post-election coalition is where you come in as already a winning party. And you look at the other parties and what do they have? What can they now offer you from in parliament?
Yep.
A pre-election coalition is the one that gets you elected. They might not get themselves elected, but they'll get you elected. In Muranga, for example, I had 23 vehicles, each of them branded, with my image and the image of the president. We had billboards all over the place. The president, myself. I held thousands of meetings, talking about my candidature and the candidature of the president. So for us, you might not get elected,
but you contributed to the campaign.
You contributed immensely to the campaign, and that's why it is. It will be after you get, after they win, now asking you, okay, now show us. Because those are the people who are given positions, for example. Which campaign did they go for? How many times did they stand in a podium? How many times did they go to a church? How many times did they how much money did they spend actually defending or trying to get this government elected? And that's why the pre-election coalition, actually the value that it gives is actually the election, it's victory itself.
We have about maybe like 2-3 minutes to the break. There's what you're saying, which is very true. There's a way that things work, but I want to get into your particular choices through your political career, and then how they've now been a consequence of the consequences of the decisions you've made. That first appointment to KEMSA was revoked at first as well, right?
It was, yes, revoked and then appointed to KICC.
To KICC.
Yeah.
Was there a reason given for the revocation?
I believe the reason was there was no reason that was given, and the fact that it was revoked and a new appointment made means that they still felt I could be useful in some way. Not sure in what way, because I felt there was no role for me to play at KICC as a caretaker.
What do you mean by no role for you to play at KICC?
It's a building. It's being chair of a building.
It's also a national. It's a convention center. It's a
busy
symbol.
one.
It's a business.
Yeah.
It's not a building.
It's a building, and you see, I actually was not looking for a salary. I was looking for an opportunity to serve, and while I did a few things when I was there, I didn't feel that it was.
You are suited for it.
I was suited for it. There are probably other people who are better suited for it. I wasn't, and that's why I was not interested in staying there.
So did you resign?
I didn't. No, you don't resign in government positions.
Why not?
Usually, because look at the people who've resigned before. There are many. Yeah, it's taken differently when you resign from a position in government. People will say, okay, if you're not willing to serve, then resign. But maybe I might be willing to serve in 5 years from today. Yeah. Or 10 years from today.
But
You
if you
could
resign,
communicate that in your decline. It's not necessarily a resignation. It's at the point of appointment. You decline the appointment respectfully with these reasons. I feel that I have more value elsewhere. For example, I've added value with the KEMSA board by doing this and the other. I look at KICC and I am not sure what value I'm the right person.
Right. I'm, however, open to future opportunities to serve, especially in my capacity as this and this and that.
There are those, and it's unspoken. It's unspoken, though. You don't resign.
So you wait to be asked to leave?
Yes. It's better off that you're told to leave, to exit, because whoever does that, it's up to them. They're the ones who know the reason why they've told you to leave.
Is this the reason why we see this pattern of people knowing full well
They're incapable.
they're incapable, or they're told what was the word that
Shikai.
there's a word that was used, fairly incompetent. Yes. So you wait to be called fairly incompetent publicly.
Yes.
It's a disturbing pattern, because I think then when you resign, I don't know if it was the same case for you, and I think Maria asked a critical question and you'll complete it. Then you kind of come out and suddenly, you're, as they say, very clever.
Yeah.
But suddenly you push back, but you could have saved yourself that dignity by. I'm just curious.
True. But you see, if you resign, even the people who, because the appointment, you're not the only one. There are people behind you. Yeah. So by you resigning, they might never understand why you resigned. They feel that it's selfish, that it was you who decided that even if I have been given this position, I don't want it. But so you're not alone. Yeah, it's not like in private sector. So when you're fired, it's very different, because then they sympathize with you. They say, okay, now we have been kicked out. Yeah, they understand.
So the position is not just an Irungu Nyakera position.
Yes.
It's a Farmers Party position.
Yes.
It's a Irungu Nyakera supporters position.
Exactly.
But also the citizens of Kenya who expected you to steer the board of KICC for the months that you served. And you're here telling us, by the way, I was just attending those meetings. I just sit there and wonder, tunaongea mambo ya rent.
Building quit.
Maintenance.
Yeah.
Sijui kuna meet expo ya nation inafanyika hapa na mlete pesa ngapi. I mean, now that is a disservice to the citizens.
It is.
And you need to be answerable for that, Irungu. Let's take a break. When you come back, you answer for that. You served a position that somebody else could have served and moved KICC forward.
And they're serving.
And other board members maybe were just looking at you and looking at you for guidance as the chair of the board. And you were just not offering that guidance because you were not filling the job. It's 2 minutes to 9. Irungu Nyakera, who is the patron of the
DCP,
which is
Democracy for Citizens Party.
For Nairobi. He's our guest. Keep it here. We'll be back shortly.
Okay.
Back to our conversation. With Irungu Nyakera, patron of Nairobi for the Democracy for Citizens Party. I hope I've said the title correctly. And we were discussing many things just before we went to the break. But yeah.
Answer accountability.
In terms of...
you served in public office
Yes.
for a time in an office that you were not really feeling. That you belonged there. You were therefore not even deploying yourself into that position for all that time.
You see, I don't need a lot of effort to actually serve as a chairman, and in particular for KICC. And during the period I was there, actually we did a lot of things. And for me, the key thing was really on HR reforms. When I went, I think there was no director who was holding a substantive position at KICC. The manager or director for procurement, which is a very key role, had been on sick leave for 16 years. Yeah. 16. Yeah. And when I came and I said we have to hire for this position, I was told, oh, he only has 3 years left, to reach retirement. And I said,
said, I don't think so.
I don't think so. I recruit all the directors were serving on month-long contracts, so that there's someone who's in charge. He knows that if you don't do what I say, I will
contract
fire you.
Renewal at the end of every month.
Every month. Yeah.
For years on end, I know.
Yes. So I changed all that. So
Mariam is like, I don't know if I wanted to know all of this.
Right?
Some of it could have been censored.
So I changed all. By the time I left, we had the company secretary who now was substantive. Before the CEO had his secretary as a company secretary. Yeah. So from there we had
the CEO
all
secretary.
The PA, the secretary was one sitting
as the
company secretary.
That's a legal role.
It's illegal. Yeah, it's a substantive position.
Right.
And it needed. So there was a lot that we did during that period, more around the HR reforms. But after I finished the HR reforms, to be honest, I didn't see anything else I needed to do. Yeah, and I'm glad the president decided to put a person from Muranga to replace me, and he did it on a Tuesday. As I said, it was so important that he fires me, that he fired me through a special notice. Well, they could have waited for 3 more days. So my issue was not that I was fired. My issue was that I was fired on a Tuesday. Yeah.
Should have waited for the end of the week.
They should have waited for Friday.
Oh my goodness.
And fire me on Friday.
As we continue the conversation, there's some feedback that we're sampling on Facebook. A lot of people sort of leaning towards the fact that they feel like you're a good choice for leadership. Darlington Kariuki, we have Okoth Ochola, who's replying. So they're also talking to each other. Best choice for Nairobi governor. His CV is very impressive. Okay.
I'm also seeing a little feedback on YouTube around the same. And there's someone asking about your time at the Ministry of Transport. You were permanent secretary for a while there.
Yes.
Someone is saying you were against the extension of the SGR into Rift Valley and Nyanza. Is that true? I'm trying to see. Piano, I think, is one who asked about that. Yes. Why was he opposed to, the SGR extension to Western, to Nyanza and Rift Valley? Yes. It's
the 527 shilling bloggers that twisted what I said. What I said is that the SGR, we did the SGR up to Naivasha. And the reason why we got to Naivasha was for us to do an industrial park in Naivasha. Without the industrial park, there was no point of extending the SGR to Naivasha to date. There's absolutely no reason why we did the SGR to Naivasha. We did it to Dukamoja, a place that had one shop. Yeah, there was no road even out of Dukamoja to Maimahiu. So we intended to go to the region. Yeah, but what I had said and what I still insist is that the SGR needs to get to Kisumu. Once we get to Kisumu, we do a port. We had gotten an approval to do a port in Kisumu for $140 million. Yeah, at that point. And then when on the Uganda side, in Kampala, they also to do a port. Then we'd have sea transport for goods between Kenya and Uganda, rather than the Kisumu Malaba. The reason is that there is absolutely no value that we get as a country by having the train continuing and through to Uganda, because you don't make money when the train is moving. You only make money when the train stops. Yeah? And when the train stops in Kisumu, the same activity we have in Mombasa, we'll have it in Kisumu. The businesses, the job employment opportunities will be huge. If Uganda wants that done, then they pay for it from Kisumu to Malaba. And when I raised that, even with the president, the former president, and he told me to go talk to the PSs for the region. I was chairing the PSs for the region. And I told them the same, and the Uganda said, okay, even for us, it doesn't make sense for us to build the railway from Kampala to Mrima Hills, which is now the border with Rwanda. They said, we'll put an ICD in Kampala. Rwanda can collect their goods from there. If they want, they build the rail. Because it makes no sense for us to take a loan of 123 billion for us to fund the regional expansion. So that was the point. So at no point did I say that we shouldn't develop any other place. I just said that Kisumu will grow to be a much bigger port city if we have a port there and not just a train that is moving to Malaba.
Okay. In just a few moments, we'll get into your thoughts on the finance bill and just other matters, governance and politics in the country. Ask Jeremy says, please ask what interest he has in KU campus politics. Some student leaders are accusing him of supporting a certain candidate. This is our community of fixers. They are curious, they have questions. So yeah, maybe you can speak to that.
I'm interested in student politics because when they start from, those student leaders are the ones who also end up in the national space. So I mentor student leaders. I remember in 2018, I was involved in all the university elections. But I was not, it was not a government project or program, it was myself. I am the one who started helped them start the Mount Kenya University Students Association. It's called MKUSA. And even for now, the KU, the elections, they finished the elections. The gentleman who was elected is called Glenn. He's a good gentleman who went to Starehe. He's a friend. So they have good leadership at KU and the other places. So we don't meddle in their elections, but we do support when we need to.
So now you're working with. Are you in DCP or are you supporting DCP? Have you resigned from your position at the Farmers Party? What's your legal political position as we speak?
I am a member of DCP, and you can. This is
your resignation from.
No, not resignation.
Yes, no. He's showed me the registration. You're a registered member of the Democracy for Citizens Party. Membership number and the date and the county.
What's
Muranga.
The date?
The date of registration is May 30th, 2025.
Yes.
As in
a few days ago.
That was that was Saturday.
Yeah, that was Saturday.
That was Friday.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
In readiness for the launch of the party.
So on
how long
May
has the
30th,
party existed?
About 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when did you leave the Farmers Party?
I left I think the same day.
Oh.
So you abandoned the party that you had championed to join this one.
Yes.
Explain. So I think it goes back to the first question that Janet asked you. How do you join and champion a party and you say that this party stands for farmers? I am very deep and passionate about farmers, and that's why I'm joining this party and becoming a leader of the Farmers Party. And then suddenly you've joined the DC's party.
The Farmers Party remains, and it will continue to champion for the interests of farmers.
And a new leadership.
And a new leadership. And for us, it's important to know when your time is up. And you can say now, since I'm interested in Nairobi politics, there is not much farming happening in Nairobi. So, and for that reason, I've left the Farmers Party to other people who want to champion issues of farmers. In Nairobi, I believe that the party then that I will be able to work with is actually DCP. DCP for the reasons that it's a truthful party. Yeah, right now we want the truth. In Kenya, we want the truth for Nairobi, and not just the truth. We want the truth, and we also want development. We want an agenda that actually can take Nairobi to be to actually live up to its status as a global city. Not a city where it's dark at night. That when God switches off his lights, even us, we can't turn ours on. Yeah. So that's the intent.
What truth are you seeking when you say we are party of truth? The truth we are seeking is?
The truth we seek is the truth from the ground, from the grassroots, from the people. Yeah, you know, sometimes when you are sitting in the high offices and the big offices, you don't listen. You were like Maria Antoinette, yeah, asking why can't people eat cake, yeah, if there is no bread, yeah, because you're not in touch with the ground. Sometimes I listen to the leaders, and I'm like, where do they live? Yeah, the issues. What are the issues? The current issues from the people are three. The key issues. One is the cost of living. It's high. Yeah. Two, joblessness. Our young people actually have no jobs. And three is actually there's no money, yeah, at all. The businesses and all that. So those are the issues. Those are the truths from the grassroots. And when you're sitting in that position of leadership, is to look at if this is what they are saying, how do we address it? Yeah. For them, if somebody tells you the truth, if somebody criticizes, they are anti-government. But yes, we are told you can hate your government but love your country. We hate this government, but we love Kenya. And we want Kenya to grow. We want Kenya to be better. And Kenya will only be better when the leadership actually cares to listen to that truth from the ground and to change.
Right. What do you think of the idea of one massive coalition to unseat William Ruto in 2027?
We support it 100%. We support it 100% because we believe that this government should not serve beyond 2027. If they are interested, they can come back in 2032 and see can you. We've seen it in many places. Even Trump was out for 4 years and came back after that, so that they can reflect on why people disliked them that much. Yeah, and so the only way for that to happen is actually to have a grand coalition like 2002. And people keep telling me, oh, your agenda of one term is to unseat William Ruto. You have no other agenda for this country. And it's true. The agenda and the manifesto is to unseat President William Ruto. And so that now all these policies that have been reckless and that have been short-term can be reversed. Right. Yeah, of course
we found ourselves in scary places when our agenda is against, not for something. Do you think that will work this time? Because when we say the agenda is to unseat William Ruto, you're not for anything, you're against something.
You're for everything that he's not. So you have an agenda, yeah, just not what he's doing. Yeah, because look, I've been looking even at the diplomatic spaces. You see, this week has been Somaliland. Yeah, the week before was this Eastern Europe. Yeah, the week before is DRC.
We've giggled at the diplomatic faux pas.
Yes,
we call them that.
The faux pas, the diplomatic, and that's just one. Yeah, even the regionally. Yeah, we used to enjoy a very cordial and great relationship with regional partners. That no longer exists. We're always seeing fights in here and there. Yeah, so that's just on one end. But on the other, and where is on issues of debt. I'm an economist. Yeah, and when we are talking about the debt ballooning, yeah, we've gone from 4.2 trillion of local debt to 6.1 trillion, 41% increase in debt, local. Yeah, domestic. That has two implications. One is you crowd out the private sector. Yeah, banks will not lend to a company
to Irungu when they can lend to government.
When they can lend risk-free to government. And two is where is this money going? Yeah, because you cannot say that we are borrowing to pay, yet it's growing. Yeah. If it was 4.2 and it's still 4.2, I would understand. Yes, we've been borrowing a lot to pay the old debt, but actually it's borrowing to waste. I've looked at State House. The last they got supplementary increase of 3.8 billion in March. Now they are looking for more. They have run out of money. They've spent 3.8 billion in 2 months. That's almost 2 billion per month. Where are they taking this money? Yeah, that's State House. And if you see how money is being spent at State House, it's also the same way money is being spent elsewhere. Yeah. Now I've seen they put in the current budget, they put a lot of development in Nyanza. Yeah, it's great because every part of this country needs to develop and to grow. But people need to ask, is it political or is it developmental? Yeah. So people, the issues that we have with the government are not about emotive. They're actually not emotive. It's actually justified by their inactions.
I have a problem. I have a big problem, Irungu. You're a fairly intelligent chap, right? And what we see with our politicians is people who just want the opportunity to sit at that table, and they have absolutely no idea what to do when they get that chance to sit at the table. In fact, one of the greatest accusations that you hear of this current administration is they wanted to take over the government. They did not know what to do with the opportunity. So they got in there and all those things they were saying, 50 billion into women, 100 billion into hustler fund, into this and the other. They realized, oh my God, so now how do we do this? And that's why they are tapa-tapaing. Same thing happened in 2013. One of the greatest accusations that was given to Ruto in 2013 was, they looked at Kibaki, they saw people are clapping at Kibaki because he has done infrastructure. So they said, tukuje na yetu kubwa. They borrowed money for infrastructure. They did not know how to manage infrastructure, where to take the money for infrastructure. We have all these loans that you're talking about. Same now that the current leadership of the opposition is saying our agenda is to get William Ruto out of government. And then what? No, first let him get out of government and then we shall figure
it out there ahead.
It basically means that in 2029 we'll be having the same conversation about whatever coalition government you have, the same way we're having one today.
Unless you have unless there's a strategic, which you might argue it's early days to talk about what we are thinking about strategically. But to Eric's point, unless there's a strategy to say, no, Eric, this is exactly how we plan to do A, B, C, D.
Actually, you see, we already have technical working teams on, in particular, the areas of the economy, which...
Sorry, we being
the
DCP?
opposition. Yeah,
or this?
It's actually the opposition coalition.
Okay.
Yes. All those parties working together. They actually have a technical working group that are on areas of the economy. That is one of the technical working groups that I know that has already been established. And there is also another technical group on actually the leadership of the coalition, and not just for nationally, but even for critical areas like in Nairobi. Of course, they will not field 10 candidates. The opposition will only have one candidate. The same way as nationally, they will not have 5 of them running for president. It will only be one person. So those teams are already working. So
those are political strategies.
No, but I'm saying the technical working group on the economy is not political. It's actually led by actually an economist.
We've had this before, my friend.
And an economist. We have seen the
other guys. When you guys on their side, we were calling you Tanga Tanga.
Yes.
Right.
And the Tanga Tanga team became Kenya Kwanza.
Yes.
The Kenya Kwanza team told us we have economists and a technical working team. We had Professor Jogona Dongo, we had Dr. David D, we had others who were working on the economy of this country and the plan. And all those things we have heard before.
I can tell you.
There's a technical working
There's
team
a difference.
working on
There's
technical
a
working team.
I can tell you, this government, because it was a new government then, anybody could have forgiven them for the first 1 year doing nothing or trying different things and not working. We're heading to the 3rd year. Still nothing. So you can't, because I keep telling them, they've been celebrating for 3 years, that we have won. They can't believe that they won. 3 years later, and we will not forgive them as Kenyans for celebrating for 3 years, because now they have started hitting the roads again to promise us the things they will do when they're in government in 2027 that they cannot do today. So that's why we are saying, if you've tried something, if it's not working, it's like a bus. If you enter a matatu and then on the way you realize you are going to Moja, but this one is going to Kabete, you get off at the next stop. We are getting off this bus.
You're getting onto the new one, and
Yes.
you are the same people who are saying, let's
No, we
move
need
those
first to get to a
you
bus.
You have a former deputy president. You have a former party leader of the Kenya Kwanza coalition sitting next to us here. You have a former attorney general. You have a former minister for agriculture. You have all these former people who are in the team that was working, that was celebrating for 2 years. They're the same ones who are now coming to tell us, oh, by the way, we shall do better. Look citizens in the eye and ask them and tell them that really the idea that we had then and the idea that we have now is any different. You are the same people.
No, that's what I'm telling you. Why?
The only thing you're doing is not you're joining the other guys who are in the Azimio side.
I'm telling you, we're in Westlands on this Kabete bus.
Okay.
We are getting off in Westlands and then getting on a bus to take us back to town.
Okay.
And then we board the one for Umoja. So the first thing is, first go back to where where the mistake happened. There are lots of policies that have been shifts that have been done. Look at, for example, SHA. I remember when I was called before SHA was launched, I was at KEMSA as a chair. I was asked, are you guys ready? I said, nobody has talked to us. And we are the ones who are supposed to be supplying the commodities. Nobody has talked to us. So I was told, should we move the launch date by like 3 months? So I asked, so what will happen in 3 months? Because there was absolutely nothing that we was going to happen in those 3 months. So I just said, you guys just advise us. But us, we are not ready. NHIF wanted 900 million. We got something that needs 104 billion. If you look at even on areas of education, people nowadays, they don't even know what class their children are, where they are going, which exams they are taking. That's why they're not even printing exams. They're not even budgeting to print exams. So there's so much that is just so disjointed. And you know the problem is that the buck stops with the president. It should never be that way. The buck should stop with the people the president appoints. It should stop with the ministers, should stop with the chairman, because then they should be they should be the one to get the hit if things are wrong. Right now, the president gets a hit. Foreign policy, education, health, because he's the one person.
It should be devolving.
He should be devolved.
You know,
he's the one who makes the decisions on everything. And that's why the buck stops with him. And
Janet.
there's no one person who can run a country on their own.
Yes.
Janet, can I tell you something?
Tell me.
When we had Jubilee as a government,
Right.
some members of Jubilee got off the bus in Westlands and they said, let's go back to town and board the bus for Umoja. And they blamed the driver of Jubilee that was supposed to be taking us to Umoja, it was taking us to Kenol. Those members of Jubilee got onto a new bus, right? Different number, but it still ended up in Westlands. Now they are there saying, no, let's get off this bus. We're in Westlands. Let's go back to town.
It's true. I guess
How much
that's a good
time do you think
analogy.
us Kenyans have to keep allowing you people to
We
make
will
the same
keep getting
mistake?
off until we get to Moja.
But you're the same people. You clearly have absolutely no idea where Umoja is. You can't read. You can't use a
the
compass.
numbers on the bus. You can't read the numbers on the bus.
Use a
That's true.
compass. Just at least know
Because you go back
Umoja
to
is
town.
east. Keno is west.
Town, honestly. Unajipata Odeon kwa railways and you're back at Odeon
And then
again.
you'll actually pick up her. Just
Yeah.
wait.
Toke, ni ule mzee.
Because I know
if
you've talked about SHA. I'm trying. It's a fair analogy, I think, what Mariam and Eric are saying. I'm just waiting for somebody to talk about how we're going to restore public trust. How we're going to, I don't know, I'm looking for a fix. Maybe it's too premature, but I like your points. Like, we can't be against something and that's the solution. I really now want to start hearing strategically, detailed.
What are we for?
What are we for and how are we getting there? Assessment of the finance bill, maybe that's one, that ship has sailed. This is what we could have done differently. Point A to B to Z. Restoration of public trust and governance and justice, something that is missing in a very big way in this country, even given just the arrest of Rose Njeri just as recently as over the weekend. So there's a huge affront to our constitutional rights and injustices. How would this new bus or driver or party want to address that? I think there's a tangibility that is missing, and maybe that's where Mariam and Eric are coming from, especially Eric using that metaphor, is the tangibility of what needs to be done is what's missing. And maybe it would help just giving it some kind of context. Again, like I said, it could be early days. Parties could be saying, no, we're still strategizing. We're going to, release this soon. So yeah, for me at least, on a personal level, it's that. It's the restoration of public trust, of justice, of governance, of integrating youth leadership, and not being a tokenistic thing. Gen Z didn't just become part of one of the biggest movements of our time, but they showed cause that, if you integrate our ideas and leadership, then you're fighting for a just Kenya. So I don't know, is it me, or you're still feeling like there's no bus? Just like the context and the meat to say, this is what we're thinking. Yeah. We're still trying to follow through with our thoughts, but initially, we're just seeing an assessment and we're thinking maybe this is one way that we could address
100%.
Yeah.
You think of 2002, the NAC Kenya, which was the movement.
Yeah, the Rainbow Coalition.
It was actually not, even the president, they picked Kibaki and backed by Raila and all the others, not because of this is what we are going to do. Kibaki said this is what we are going to do. They said we have to end the 40 years of Khan rule in this country. Yeah, we have to end Moism. Yeah, so the same for us now. Of course, they came in and they did a lot. Yeah, because they still had the framework of what actually needs to be done. We've seen what shouldn't be done. Yeah, so right now, the coalition of the opposition parties is coming in to say if the last 3 years is anything shows us how the next 2 or 7 would look like, then we don't want it as Kenyans. Yeah, and that's what they want to come and end. Yeah, of course, on the back in the background we'll have a manifesto, but UDA Kenya Kwanza had a brilliant manifesto. The other day I saw David Ndii, somebody commenting, there's not been development. David Ndii said there was no development. He said the development.
The word development.
Word development was only one in the entire UDA manifesto, and that was on agriculture reforms or something. Yeah. So we've seen manifestos that have been done and so beautiful, but absolutely nothing comes out of it. I think Kenyans just want change, and they actually want development. Whether you tell them in advance or later, they just want to see it. And it's the perception is reality. Yeah, what you perceive is what is there. Yeah, nobody should lie to you that what you're perceiving might not. There's something different.
In your head.
Yeah, it's in your head. What you perceive, that's the reality for you. And the perception right now is that this government has failed.
Perhaps I should ask you a direct question. You are interested in the leadership of Nairobi. Yes. What position? Senator, governor?
I'll discuss that later.
Okay.
But yes, in Nairobi.
What's ailing Nairobi? And what should the people of Nairobi look for when they're thinking about a leader?
The issue of Nairobi is the leadership issue. Yeah, and you see, the things that Nairobians care about. One is trade. Yeah, nobody came to Nairobi to count cars. How many matatus have passed this road? Everybody came to Nairobi to make money.
Another corner app.
They came to make money. Yeah, they can make an app for that.
Could be an app for that, which also makes the money.
Right?
Yes.
But hapa ni mali pa biashara. Short.
The traders want an opportunity to actually make money in the markets, in the businesses themselves, and even hawkers, not necessarily on the street directly, but they can get spaces to actually do that. Trade is critical. 2, financial management. We lose so much money in a day in Nairobi. And it's not that money is lost just like that. It's by design, yeah, because there are people collecting it. Yeah, when the revenue that the county collects is exactly the same as they collected 7 years ago, about 13 billion. Never changes. You can't tell me that the economy has moved from $60 billion to $130 billion, and you're collecting the same money to date. Thirdly, is issues of actually public spaces. Yeah, our kids, the kids in they're even getting rickets. There are no public spaces. They're being stolen. Yeah, I was even saying that Nairobi National Park, the snakes have more space than
our children.
Than our children have. Yeah, so it's issues of spaces, issues of housing. Those are actually real issues, and that's why you see
snakes have walking spaces.
And that's why I've never had
a disturbing visual. Yeah.
Then fourth is issues of health access. Yeah, access to health. Yeah, health is completely devolved now. Yeah, and I know that because when I was chairman for KEMSA, we had a lot of issues with Nairobi as a county, even to the point where the governor told me that they will not pay the KEMSA debt. Yeah,
right.
Which was about 400 million or so.
Yeah, I think Nairobi is one of the counties that does owe KEMSA the most.
And he told me he won't pay. And you know, I told him, by the way, the problem is when you don't pay, it's not Nairobians who suffer. It's all Kenyans. Because I will not service Makueni County because I don't have money. I don't have money. I will not service Turkana. So I told him, why don't you just pay, then stop ordering from KEMSA? You see, that would make sense. Yeah. And then issues of youth. Yeah. Youth joblessness, creative economy. Yeah. So those are things that actually can be done in Nairobi. But you remember, it's about the leadership. If the leader actually picks the right people to guide those areas, you'll actually get the development that you desire. But there's no one person, even for the county like Nairobi, who can run that place alone.
Right. I was just going to go into that because what people often speak of specifically in Nairobi and other county governments elsewhere, but Nairobi specifically, is that there are people who run Nairobi who no one knows except the people who work in Nairobi. How would you be able to achieve, fair trade, better financial management when there are people who are entrenched very deeply? There's cartels basically that run Nairobi.
When I went to KEMSA, I was told the same, that there are cartels. And we got rid of the cartels. When I went to KEMSA, we had 250 staff who are earning a salary and chilling at home, not going to work. You cannot have a security officer who is working from home. Yeah, a driver. Yeah, who's working from home. Yeah, and I came and I was told you can't touch them. They were brought by this and this, and I removed them. 250. Yes, yeah. When you come to a place, when I was in transport, I was told you can't go to the port. You can't handle the port. I went to the port. I'm the one who brought the reforms at the port. I fired the people who could not be fired. Yeah, the staff, the directors. I think we fired about 5 of them in one day. Yeah, I closed the current minister's business. Yeah, he's a minister now, and I was told those people you can't touch. I closed it. Yeah, and we went and we burnt the sugar, some fake sugar that was there. I was told I'll be killed. Yeah, we were not killed. I'm here now. Yeah, so you just have to want to do it, and you cannot do it if you get into it. Yeah, they will be the first people to come and try to pull you to their side. Yeah. So if you know that you have a business to do, if you know you have an agenda and you have to achieve it, then you can't do it the way they want. Something has to change.
Something has to change. That's a loaded one because a lot has to change. I'm thinking through all the changes that we are wishing for. This idea of an opposition that is united and that has one big, umbrella, all of these things. Where do young people come into all of this? Just thinking from a representation perspective, because so far the representatives of the coalition that's looking like it's about to form, it doesn't have too much of a youthful face. And through, we've said, we need to represent 70% of the population of this country in governance. It needs to look like it's a young country, even at this executive and governance level, not just core ground. Because if I walk, everyone is 19. But when I'm fixing the nation, every guest is in their 40s upwards, you know. So what's the...
I think actually the leadership is fairly youthful. Even people like Malala, when you see them, is there. People like this Medhu. Medhu is 34.
Senator Medhu,
is 34. Wanjiku Thiga, who's a youth chairperson, she's I think 32. She's youth anyway. But it's youthful. But there has to be a balance. You know, I'm young, but I always say that if there's one thing I would change, if I was told change the constitution, one thing only, I'd make the president of the country minimum age 65 years. Yeah. Yes, 65. Yeah.
Minimum.
Yeah.
Walk me through that.
Yes. So, because, you see, I imagine that I am not dumb at this point. I have, but what about in 22 years when I'll be 65? I'll be wiser, yeah? I'll have better networks. My vision will be very long term, because from there I'm thinking if I do 10 years, after that it's just going to die. Yeah, I have no other plans. I'm not getting more children. I'm taking children through school. So at that time, like what Kibaki did, you know, he didn't have any further plans for himself. You know, now when you get the young leaders, somebody wants to amass wealth. Yeah, they want to have buildings in Dubai.
Do you have any empirical evidence to support that?
Yes, that's why I'm saying Kibaki.
No, I mean, aside from Kibaki, he's because we also had Amoy who hung on until he could not hang on anymore.
Yes.
And then the world over and the continent over, we have examples of leaders who come in when they're young and, you know, leave only when they're dying, basically, or when
like forcibly forced out.
When they're getting senile.
I look at even the US. Yeah. The last election was between two people who are in their 78 and 81.
Yeah, and one was calling the other one old.
I even think of Obama. Obama succeeded.
In his 50s, in his late 40s.
But imagine Obama at 60. Yeah.
Currently.
Yeah. At 60
if
now.
Obama were to become president
how
today,
much more will he actually have delivered to that country?
That's one position. That is one position. You know, we could argue to and fro about it, about, you know, experience that you have to have when you're president, when you're making all these global decisions, when you need to understand the intricacies of, you know, looking at Somalia and Somaliland, or Puntland, or going to Morocco and looking at Western Sahara and Sahrawi, and just the experience that you need to have to understand all that. But then, in leadership, you're looking at leadership across. And I've just heard you mention, and I think even your party is still thinking the tokenistic way of looking at the youth. The leader of our youth wing is a youth. And that's where we strike the balance. But the party leader and the deputy party leader and we are looking at
But the deputy party leader is Malala.
You know, people who are people who are need to be, you know, a certain caliber. The point that I think, and I borrow from what Mariam was asking, the majority of Kenya's population is in the 35 and below, right?
Yes.
The minority of Kenya's population is those ones above 50. Absolute minority. How can we just be having an absolute minority of people sitting down to talk about the future, yet they have been there, they have failed? Look at the leadership of your new opposition alliance, from your party leader, the DCP, from the Wiper leader, from the leader of the People's Liberation Party, from the leader of Jubilee. All those are in the absolute minority. And when you talk about that space at the table, you look at Malala. That's the only one that you can mention.
You see, the most important thing in politics is patience. Yeah? And in Kikuyu, you have a saying that an old man sitting on his stool sees further than a boy on top of a tree. Yeah? Because this experience is actually what you also need in the leadership of this country. Yeah? The fact that somebody has been through it, tells you they will not even rush decisions. That's why they listen. They're not quick to act. And that's as it is. We will get older, and the young people will also get older, but then they grow in leadership. So the point is we have to mainstream youth leadership. We have to bring in young people into government. They don't have to be at the top level, that they are the presidential candidate. the deputy president, but they have
Why
to be
not?
there.
Why not? Let's be honest. We have had people who have all the experience. If experience is a factor of age, then we have the most experienced leaders ever, especially across the continent. You'll see time and time again, people are clinging on to life, clinging on to leadership, but it doesn't show in their policy, it doesn't show in their execution, it doesn't show in their empathy, it doesn't even show in their experience, to be quite honest. So I don't get why you would want to push that narrative further, as opposed to trying something new. Again, leaders should be judged on merit, track record, their agenda, their manifesto, what they're selling. But by and large, all these experienced people have done very little for us with their decades and decades. If you look at Kenya's parliament today, it's probably 1,000 years of experience combined.
Yeah.
But how is it helping us?
And maybe there's an opportunity for co-leadership. And I think that's the biggest thing, that if we don't take advantage of a leadership that really fully integrates young people, then you run the risk of making the same mistakes. I was trying to do some really quick study on countries that have had young leaders and what they have managed to achieve. Jacinda, I know. The first person that came to mind was Petteri Orpo, Finland. No, Sanna Marin. She was elected at 34. She gained global attention. She was...
But she was found clubbing.
Please, that story was...
As Prime Minister.
As Prime Minister. No, but that's so unfair, because it was one night of going out. Irungu, how can you go straight to that and not look at the progressive policies that she
should
had?
Prime Ministers and presidents not have
No,
personal
they
lives?
We killed that story.
They should not have personal lives?
I think
When
that
you're
was
a
an
leader, all
attack.
you do is lead, yeah?
That was an attack.
You
That
don't do
was an
anything
attack.
else.
That's what I was
time.
saying. At 65, you're not going out clubbing. Yeah, because you also have to allow young
How old
people
was
to
Boris
also-
Johnson when he was hosting parties at 10
At,
Downing?
that's a good question.
Yeah, he was hosting. He was not out clubbing.
During COVID lockdown.
Sanna
So the problem
Marin.
is the club, just to be clear.
Sanna Marin, Finland, Prime Minister at 34. One of the wins, she led Finland through COVID with high approval ratings. Oversaw, I don't know whether this one is a win, but anyway, NATO membership application after decades of military non-alignment. I have to skip Macron.
Don't skip him.
All right, fine.
Emmanuel Macron,
Macron
Defeated,
was
yeah,
elected
that's
in
true.
his
He's
early
done well.
40s.
At 39.
He's done well.
He's done well.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the blemishes. I think
Yeah.
sometimes people look at the blemish more than the wins.
Yeah.
So maybe I caught myself because I'm like, you're thinking about the blemish, you're not thinking
Yeah.
about the
You're
wins.
thinking of
He's
Macron
done-
of
he's
last
done
week.
You've
not
laughed.
of
That
Yeah.
one.
last,
But there's many others. There's
Justin Trudeau.
there's somebody from Ecuador at age 36. He was elected in a highly polarized and stable moment, and then began security reforms, etc. I think the point here
Let's
is
even
they
come back to
co-led.
Kenya.
Yes.
Even in Kenya, at the onset of our independence, yes, we had the
That's
mzee
true.
called Jomo Kenyatta, but how many of the young people were working
The
in senior
tomboyers,
levels?
the tomboyers and the like.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that concern
Kibaki
about...
and all,
Yeah.
they were in their 20s.
Yes.
And they were serving. You see, and that's the thing. Kibaki was executive director of the party, KANU, at the point, right? President was Jomo Kenyatta, yes, it is old age. But then there were younger people. But you could see and feel that there are young people and old people who are working together.
And I think
co-leading.
co-leading, that I think is
But
a
that's
huge
what I'm
win.
saying. You see, that's what I'm saying. We have to mainstream youth into leadership. That's what Kibaki in 68 was a PS, but he became president 2002.
True.
44 years later.
True.
Yeah? The experience that he built over that period, from PS to minister to vice president, allowed him, even when he was leading, he never felt threatened.
Yeah.
You see, if you are young and you go into that position, and speaking for experience, when I was a PS, I remember one of the very senior people chair coming to
How
my
old were
office.
you when you were first?
33.
You were 33 when you
33.
first appointed as PS.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he came to my office and he told me that we are not used to having a young person here. So
Especially in transport.
especially in transport. Yeah. And so I told him, unfortunately for now,
That's who you
that's
have.
the person who's here.
I think that was unfortunate that he said that. I think it would have been an opportunity to say, let's find a way to put our experiences together. Because I think I get what you're saying about experience, but I think where countries get co-leadership right is they know that young people have a current lived experience of the matters that they're dealing with. The older person has the experience to say, this is how we can navigate.
Yes.
But I think it's so important that a younger person says, this is what we're living right now. As 20, 30-year-olds, this is our reality with access to healthcare, with our mental health, with job opportunities, or job loss or unemployment. That lived lens, I think, sometimes is overlooked. Because if you're living it, then you have that bird's eye view to say, I may not be 40 or 50 or 60. I'm in my late 20s, early 30s. What I do know for sure is that I am part of the majority, and this is what our lived experience is. Bringing that to the table with somebody who then can come and say, that's, and then you put your heads together. So I think there's a lost opportunity in co-leadership, and like I said, it's unfortunate that that's what you were met with, was, we're not used to having somebody young. Was there any hostility beyond that? There was.
Yes,
okay.
there was. And not just with from him, but even from the system, the people you have to work with, because you have the bureaucrats who've been there for 20, 30 years.
Yeah, and they're territorial.
They're territorial. They're like, who are you? Why? How did you get into government? We are the ones who've been in government. We should have been the ones growing in government. And that's why, because for me, I fully support youth leadership. But I also don't want to set up somebody to fail.
That's true.
And so if you bring them in now, you bring them in and then you grow them in the system, in the leadership, they see the challenges, so that at the right time,
let them occupy key positions.
They occupy key positions.
I, for example, am a very big opponent to picking principal secretaries from the private sector and just bringing them to the helm of government. I'm completely opposed to that. I think PSs should be civil servants, career civil servants. You've at least a number of years, at least a decade in the public service, when you're then going to be the one who signs off
which
all the
lights
money.
don't work.
Yes.
Yes.
And when you're signing something, you know the power of the pen. Because, for example, you are committing the government to how many billions of shillings on your budget?
190 billion a year.
190 billion shillings. That is a CEO of one of the largest corporations in the country. You can't just come from nowhere and have zero understanding of this and start running it. But that's one. The other thing is, I like what, for example, President Uhuru was doing with the CASs.
Right.
Before he started balancing it with the older ones, by saying, I'm appointing these young people to this level of government so they can see what's happening below, and they're high enough to see what's also happening up here. That's good grooming of and use of that position. Now, coming back into political parties, this is what we should be seeing in political parties. Not seeing political parties that are just saying, our young people are,
our children.
Our children are the ones who are like youth chairman, you are
youth wing, women wing,
deputy organizing secretary of the party, and so on and so forth.
Captain for entertainment.
Yeah, captain. It's like people didn't see what people like Thomas Sankara were able to do. At 24.
Before we
true. And I support that as well. I think we have to mainstream.
Right. There's a fixer here. Our smallest ever was talking about the revenue collection for Nairobi, asking us to fact check. And I think it has not remained stagnant, but it has only moved from about 10 billion to 12.54 billion. So not stagnant for sure. But I don't know
that is stagnant.
But I don't know if that level of
that is absolutely stagnant.
Philip Kisi,
the CRA
10 billion.
says
so not
that
stagnant completely,
Nairobi's potential is 60 billion on-source revenue. So when you're collecting between 8 to 12 billion, that is stagnant.
It's completely stagnant.
Yes.
That's fair.
And yet you're budgeting and saying our on-source revenue, for example, this financial year's budget for Nairobi, they had budgeted on-source revenue as, I think, 18 or 20 18 billion, right?
And collecting
12.
Yeah. Okay. Some more comments there. Most corrupt politicians we have are no one's example. Okay, that's a good part. Leadership is about influence, and I don't see it here. Will the young people be picked from their homes? That's Nathan asking. Where are we getting these young people? No, I think Kujituma Sasa. It's a factor of Kujituma. There's also the issue of reforms. The mind won't survive the heat of Nairobi politics. What reforms do you have? Otherwise this mind won't survive the heat of Nairobi politics. Goes back to just the same question of some of these places are so rotten, so messed up that indeed, even with the best of intentions, it seems that people are unable to make significant change when they're there.
The intention, as long as there is the intention and the will, and you are at the highest level, you will make the changes. It's like a CEO of a company. As long as you are the one who's deciding, if you can't deliver, you leave.
So we stop excusing people who are
Yes.
like, no, but the system is rotten,
No,
the cartels,
no,
the
no,
whatever.
no. Don't excuse them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And those I'm giving from examples. At KEMSA, when I went, I was told there are cartels everywhere. Yeah. And we were able to actually change and transform, and we moved even from order fill rates of 28% to 69% in that year and a half that I was there. All the procurement, we moved towards e-procurement.
Right.
I brought in I asked the National Treasury to send me a team for procurement, to overhaul the procurement team. They sent me people to fill the procurement. I didn't care who they sent. I just wanted new people who we can actually trust. Yeah. And with that, one of them who came was more rotten than the ones we had. And I fired him. And I was called to the head of public service. Right. And he told me, don't fire that guy. I told him, but he's rotten. He told me, do not fire. If you fire him, we'll also get rid of you guys, the board. Right. And I fired him, and I was fired too. But I got rid of him. Yeah.
Is he back?
Yeah.
No, I hired somebody else.
Okay. If you're if the ship is going down.
Yes.
But just before we leave the KEMSA conversation and know about to close, there's a shortage of vaccines right now. We've seen various shortages. There's a report just the other week in the dailies about fake drugs. What is the problem as far as our ability to one, procure effectively and enough drugs, distribute, and also what's our issue with counterfeit drugs in the market? Is issue does not talk about.
So vaccines are not under KEMSA, they're under the Ministry of Health.
Yes.
But in terms of quality, I can speak for KEMSA. Actually, the procurement systems that are there actually deliver quality products. There's a doctor who called me from Turkana last week and told me that since we left, they've started getting some low quality products. Like he told me, there's one that he uses for women undergoing delivery, and he had to go buy with his own money from the pharmacy to come because he felt the women are in much pain when they're delivering. So he said that the products from KEMSA actually are not high quality. So that's the only concern that I've had raised, but I hope that it is not something that will be recurring. That is just one of. But in terms of the products, counterfeit products, that's all under the pharmacy board. They're actually the ones who oversee the entry of products, licensed products in the market, and they're the ones that are supposed to be going around the pharmacies to check whether they are counterfeits. So that's a government program.
How much, as of your last point of knowledge, how much do county and national government owe KEMSA?
When I left, they owed 3 billion, about 3.6 billion, and KEMSA owed suppliers about 2.8 billion, meaning that if they were paid in full, they will actually owe suppliers nothing. Okay. Since I left, I understand that there is a time when they were called, the board was called for very quick and urgent decision to borrow 10 billion shillings from KCB, which they had to pass and borrow 10 billion. I hope they spend it well.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Tumemaliza.
Mazungumzo
ya leo. We thank you very much for answering all the questions.
Yes.
And we'll come back here and again, just holding you accountable for what you've done in public service and what your thoughts are and the coalition that you're in and your political thoughts as well as a leader of the country. Irungu Nyakera, who is a patron for DCP Nairobi. DCP again is?
Democracy for Citizens Party.
It's about the Kuskiza ground.
Just think of this, just remember that. Just remember.
Skiza.
Skiza ground.
Yes.
Skiza ground.
Skiza ground. We are truthful.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us today on Fixing the Nation, one conversation at a time. For the conversations that we've had today, tomorrow we have more conversations. We'll have a conversation about debt, and we'll be joined by UN international expert on foreign debt, who will be joining us part of the morning, and also early in the morning we'll have another one. This one is going to be a surprise for you. But we talk about legal advice to the government at the highest level. Have a lovely day from myself, Eric Latif, Janet Bogua, and Mariam Bishar. See you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
See you.